Okay, Dave, we're live.
Wow. No pressure.
Just no pressure, just a quick, stand down, wait. Thank you, Dave, for joining me. Thank you if you're watching live for joining. If you're watching the replay, thank you. Just before we start, I want to briefly explain why we didn't go live yesterday as we'd scheduled, as we'd posted quite early on in the morning with a reminder. What started to happen yesterday morning, if you're a social media user, you will have seen there was a lot of posts about Blackout Tuesday. And at the time we posted to say we're looking forward to going live at 12:30, there was only a couple of posts. But actually watching it, as I do and lots of other people do, it seemed to build quite quickly in the news feeds, more so on Instagram and Facebook than LinkedIn. But I contacted Dave to say, how do we feel about going live in 2-3 hours? What do you think we should do? And we had a really good chat about it, about how we felt about going ahead. And we decided, and we will talk about this more, that even though it was less evident on LinkedIn this time yesterday morning, it was something important that was going on in the world. It was something our audiences were talking about it. We also felt that if we had gone live, we would have needed to talk about it, because to ignore something that big going on wouldn't have felt right. But at the same time, if we did go live, we didn't think that we were experts on the subject to discuss it in detail. So we took the decision, we're going to talk about this more, that we would postpone it a day. So that's why we're doing it today. We will talk about yesterday in light of what's happening in the world. And actually, this is all about needing to stay really agile with your content and the importance of that. So, as if you've seen any of my previous lives, this is my fourth one. I have picked to do these with people in my world that I often speak to behind the scenes, and thought that would make some interesting conversations for people to listen into. We will run for about 20 minutes. Today, we are talking about B2B marketing, because that has been very much part of my world and my career. So Dave, in an amazing shirt again for a webinar.
I've dressed up for the occasion.
Thank you. Yes.
And my wife has done the hair as well.
Brilliant, thank you. So Dave, thanks for joining. If you just, let's introduce you now after I've waffled for 2 minutes, your role, what you do, and about the Business Marketing Club.
Okay, thanks for having me. I'm really delighted to be here. So my name's David Stevens. I'm a B2B marketer. I've been in business marketing for 25 years now.
Yeah.
I've been CMO at the likes of PA Consulting Group. I've been in key marketing roles at British Land, at EY, at Telefonica O2, at Barclays, at BT. Far too many others to name, but the capacity in which I'm talking to you today is I am chair and co-founder of something called the Business Marketing Club.
Yeah, which I did hear you speak at an event. I don't think it was a BMC event a few years ago. I
do occasionally go to non-BMC events.
Yes, and I've also spoken at a BMC event in Bristol a couple of years ago, and I think it shows the situation that we're in for a couple of things. One, I saw that you had gone online with events during lockdown and got in touch to say, I see you got online. Can I get involved? Can I help? Can I support in any way? And we'll touch on that. But also just the difference that I hadn't been involved in BMC events for the last 2 or 3 years because of the time it takes to travel to them. For me, living in the Cotswolds, London is a round trip, even Bristol is a round trip. So actually there was a bit of a barrier to be able to go to as many networking events as I wanted to. So I was absolutely delighted that these events had come online and that I could get involved with them as well. So do you want to talk about the shift that you made to online?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, we do more than just events. It's probably worth saying. So we do training, we do podcasts, we do social media groups, mentoring, community clubs, gatherings, newsletters. But definitely a key part of what we've done historically have been face-to-face events, and now, as you say, they're all online. I think the the challenge that we encountered was not just to take the kind of usual format of a face-to-face event online, but specifically not to lose its regional character. Because one of the things that was really, really important to the way that we set the BMC up is it's kind of got regional, I don't know, chapters sounds a bit grand, but there's kind of regions across the UK that run their own events. And we didn't want to be able to lose that in what we've set up. So although people from not just across the UK, but actually anywhere in the world now, we're getting good ratings in the US, in Canada, and in Europe. So anyone can join, but actually our different webinars will still maintain a regional character. We've got the Newcastle group running some of the webinars, the London group running some of the webinars, and so on. So they still have that kind of individuality to them, which I think is really important.
Yeah, because you will have built up a community of people that would go to those events.
Yes, and also, you know, different regions want to talk about different things. You know, there really isn't a desire to talk about strategy to the same extent in London as in Manchester, and you know, you've just got to be able to reflect that in what you present. Yeah.
That's really interesting. That's a whole nother live, isn't it, about regional differences? That's
a month's time if you invite me back, if the numbers are good.
Yes. Okay. Cool. No pressure. So the weekly series that you started, is it week 11 or week 12?
Week 12 today. 12 so 4:30 16:30 BST today. We'll be doing another one.
Great. And we talked briefly before we hit the live button that you've had the same topic for 12 weeks on how the coronavirus crisis affects B2B marketing.
Yes.
I think I took part in week 3 or 4.
Yeah,
I quite remember. Yeah. But I wanted to ask you about them because as the host, you've pulled together an amazing group of different people each week for a mixed conversation. I think, is it 4 panelists each week?
Yeah, that's right. Each week.
You have. But you've done the hosting and the smiling and the introducing. I'd like to know your thoughts on it, but also what you've learned from doing the same topic over 12 weeks.
Sure. Well, I'm not sure my smiling is quite up to par, but I will keep working on it. And I mean, it's been really interesting. And as you say, we've really tried to go after diverse speakers, so large businesses as well as small, agency side as well as client side, people outside of B2B marketing as well as within. And I think there are 3 distinct phases that we're kind of working our way through. So the first phase, which I think occupied about the first 8 weeks or so after lockdown, and we've come out of now. The first phase was one of shock. And fear and not knowing the answers and not knowing whether your customers were still going to continue to buy from you. And that has a whole series of characteristics in terms of the way businesses responded, in terms of budgets, in terms of furloughing. And on marketing, it affected things like how do you manage your team? How do you change your marketing messages? How do you change your channels to market? I think that the second phase, which I think we're in, is maintenance. So this is lockdown is coming to an end. There are still some opportunities in the funnel that you have the opportunity to be able to convert. So there's a bit of pickup that marketing and sales can be doing. And people have got either they've got more of a sense that they've got a handle on the situation, or they've got a handle on the situation. I'm not quite sure which. But that, again, has impact in terms of things like what the role of marketing is, what changes are you making to your marketing mix, and also where are you doing marketing. And then there's a stage that is yet to come, which is recovery, which is, I'm calling it the new different because I can't call it the new normal anymore. But that is things like Do we need as much office space as we've had before? What skills are we going to need in the new marketplace? And also, from a marketing perspective, how do you really focus on trust right now? Because we'll be in a recession. People don't buy risky propositions in a recession. Therefore, you go back to brand. So I think we've seen and we're seeing these three phases that people are going through.
Yeah, and maybe a phase 4, which is a new, out of it and the other side, and did this actually really happen?
Absolutely. Yeah. And who I don't think we know what phase 3 looks like yet. So who the hell knows what phase 4 is going to be?
Yeah. Do you think 8 weeks for phase 1 in shock? Does that feel like it was a long time or quite? It's hard to gauge, isn't it? Because it feels like it's been going on forever. But at the same time, no one planned for this. No one knew this was happening.
I was thinking the other day, actually, so the BMC ran its last face-to-face event a week before lockdown.
Right.
And it seems to me like that was years ago.
Forever. Yeah.
I can't remember. It feels like it just belongs to a different world, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I think we've needed 8 weeks to try to get to a place where we've come to terms with something that is just so different to our previous experience.
Yeah, and not just in the wider world, but just the way we work as well, whether it's working from home, working with teams, all these different technologies that we're using as well.
There's technology, there's the whole team management. How do you get that sense of togetherness, that sense of community from a team when actually you're no longer in the same place? And then there's crucially, and I don't know that I don't know that we've yet managed to deal with this properly. There is the emotional impact and the mental impact of working from home. It's quite one of the we run polls in these webinars, and 1 week we asked people what's been the toughest thing about being furloughed. And the majority of people, I can't remember the precise number, but 60% plus came back and said it's being able to maintain a work-life balance working from home. And I've actually written about that separately. I wrote a blog the other week about lockdown marketing, and I think that there were lots of, in the old world, there were lots of disciplines to the way that we did marketing that were kind of implicit. So you kind of didn't realize they were things around you that were framing the way that you did marketing. So a good example would be, I work in London, so actually my day was defined by Silverlink's train timetable, so what time can I get to the office, what time do I need to get home, and that framed my day. And all of a sudden that's gone. Now I just kind of walk upstairs to be consigned to the attic, and that's it. And so all of a sudden that discipline about when my day starts and stops has gone. And I never really realized it was there in the first place until it disappeared.
Well, interesting. I've been working from home for nearly 10 years and I don't think I've got the balance yet. So I can't expect people to in 8 weeks. But actually, if you're watching this and you are a premium member of LinkedIn and you have access to the online learning courses, one of my fellow instructors, Dave Crenshaw, has some amazing courses on how to manage remote working in your time. And I listened to him once and he said he actually schedules a slot at the end of his day where he finishes his work and he games online video gaming to finish his day before he walks downstairs to have family time.
Wow.
Because if you're working like you would have done, you'd have had a commute or a drive or something. You have this gap between putting your pen down and switching off and going to your family. So actually his advice, I can't say I've actually properly implemented it yet because my laundry's just through that door, is just to make sure that you do try and have that way of I'm going to finish my day by doing this to get the separation.
I mean, that's really, really good advice. I can't claim to have cracked it. I'm terrible at this, and work is constantly running into my personal life, and it's kind of an agenda that I need to fix. But I do think the kind of key lesson is we can't expect to be able to just simply emulate office life whilst working from home.
No, and we're kind of digressing, but I'd also say that working from home during this period is not normal working from home either. It is very different because we're not supposed to be leaving our houses. So I would still have part of my week of going out for cups of coffee and meeting clients. So it is now entirely, at home. So it is different. And from my experience, working patterns have changed. It's not something I'm having to do, but for everyone that's homeschooling as well, I know they're taking times with their partners, mornings or afternoons. At the beginning, I was seeing I could almost have an end to my day at 5:30 when people left the office, but I was seeing emails were still coming through at 6, 7, 8, 9 because of working patterns. So, there has been lots of changes that we've had to adapt to. So maybe 8 weeks for all of everything that's gone on wasn't too long for a shock phase.
Pretty good. Let's hope there's not another wave of this whereby we have to compare the timing.
Yes. I was going to say, so we're kind of probably 4 weeks into phase 2. Let's pick up on your topic about how maybe we've got used to being at home. Why lockdown marketing is different to what it would have been.
Yeah, I think it's. So it's different in a number of ways. So the practical art of marketing in lockdown is clearly a different beast, and the most obvious thing is the way that you cater for the bottom of your funnel, because clearly you can't do face-to-face events right now, and actually you can't do direct marketing, and this one actually hasn't bizarrely been played up very much, which has surprised me. But no one's in their offices, so you can't can't do DM. And then what results is everybody has jumped on the same bandwagons, video, social media, webinars, and so on. So I think the singular challenge of from a pure marketing channel mix perspective is you've got fewer channels, and so differentiation becomes much more important in terms of the way that you do your marketing. I think in terms of what you talk about, that's changed as well. You clearly can't really focus on lead generation. As I said earlier, it's more of a branding game right now, and what this says about your brand. There's much more importance attached, obviously, to internal communications. There'll be a lot of employees who are going to be using this time as their kind of moment of truth with their business, as to how this feels as a place to operate. So the general practice, the kind of levers you have to pull from a marketing perspective are different now to pre-lockdown. I also think that the resources that you have to play with are different. So marketing budgets have frequently been cut. People in marketing teams have been either reallocated to other teams or furloughed, or indeed, sadly, have lost their roles, which means teams are very much smaller. And so you've got fewer resources practically to be able to play with. You're also in a place where and this is kind of, I think, for the upside, a lot of the silos that existed in organizations have disappeared. A lot of marketers are saying to me that suddenly they're able to have interactions with people who they could never speak to before. I mean, I think before this call started, Luan, you and I were kind of joking at how we'd suddenly been able to access speakers who we wouldn't have dreamed of being able to get before this had started. And I think that's being seen online as well. And then there's the pure job of working from home, which kind of
Yeah.
goes into the discipline conversation that we were talking about.
Yeah. So we'll touch on it briefly because I love the way that sometimes these conversations set things up so nicely. I've also mentioned to you, I've been doing some research with Warwick Business School around social media use in SMEs, in businesses, and we particularly asked a question around the how things have changed during the crisis. And I am really pleased to say I'll be releasing those findings next week. So, and exactly some of what you were saying around types of content people were posting, the resources, whether they had access to the products to take pictures of, team members doing their own kind of voice to camera stuff at home rather than with a professional behind the scenes. Lots of changes have happened, but because it's just, so we're on 20 minutes. So if we bring it back to that, the beginning of the session and to wrap it up is just that need to stay agile and aware of what's happening in the world and be really responsive week by week as we go through these phases, as we, even in B2B marketing, as we have emotions because we are people working with people. I think things are going to keep changing.
I think you're right, and but also, I think we need to be honest with ourselves. Quite often we don't know what the right thing is to do, and we have to try to somehow navigate a course and stay true to what we think is important, which absolutely goes back to the decision at the top of this about, well, when do we hold this live event? And before we go, I must just give a plug. If people are interested in the Business Marketing Club, please go to businessmarketingclub.org.uk, and that's where you'll be able to find out more, or do ping me. My email address is davestevens@gmail.com. Thank you. Plug over.
That's what we're doing these for as well. To show what content is out there that's really important. So I will be watching this afternoon because I found them useful week by week. Thanks for this session. These could so easily run into lots of topics and 20 minutes. So maybe we'll come back and do another one later in the year.
I'd love to do this again if you want me back.
No, absolutely. If you've said you will, I will hold you to that. I will be back next week, Thursday next week, with Penny Eccles, who is a marketing consultant in the higher education sector. We're going to be talking and debating the difference between strategy and tactics, and how, as marketers, we're always asked for flyers and posters, and diving into tactics. And a reaction like that is what we're going to be talking about. So that will be next Thursday. But we need to wrap this up. So a huge thank you to you, Dave, for joining me. I will be back. We'll get a date in the diary sooner rather than later. Thank you for watching, if it's live or recorded. And pop some feedback in the comments and we will keep an eye on those.
Thanks, Luan. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks.